You see what Trump does that the liberal presidents don't do? They go and they get us involved and entrenched in wars in places in the world that can never benefit America. There's nothing that Afghanistan can ever do for America. If we need to attack them because they attacked us, we should just glass the place. There's no point trying to fix it. It's unfixable. You can't fix a nation where the average IQ is 80. There's a reason they are the way they are. They're not a first world nation. But what does Trump do that's different? Trump empowers, doesn't go to war in Argentina, empowers our allies, our partners in countries that matter to us, countries in our hemisphere, which I would suggest 50 years from now that the nations in our hemisphere will be partners with America like the European nations were over the last 100 years. Now, of course, the European nations are devolving from first world status to third world status as they import tens of millions of third world migrants to replace their indigenous populations. Now, Malay's political position had become seriously endangered running up to this election because left-wing political forces around the world, globalists, had begun placing substantial market bets against the Argentinian peso. And this was driving down the value of the peso, threatening to dump the nation's economy, and threatening Milei's narrative of economic prosperity for Argentina. Remember, he's the famous guy with the chainsaw, cutting government, cutting spending, and revitalizing Argentina's economy. And now it was looking to be in dire straits, not because of anything that had gone wrong internally to the nation, but because of negative bets that were being placed against the economy on the markets by left-wing globalists. Well, Trump responded to this threat, supporting Milei, by making a huge $40 billion investment. Not a bailout, an investment. They're two different things. An investment has a return on investment if you bet correctly. A bailout is just lost money, no matter what you do. Trump made a huge $40 billion investment to strengthen the Argentinian peso against attack. And now that Milei has resoundingly won re-election, that investment is earning the United States a huge financial return. So not only did Trump win for our ally in Argentina, which has, of course, tremendous geopolitical strategic implications for us. We're going to talk about the Monroe Doctrine a bit later in this show. But it made America money. Instead of the foreign policy of people like Biden, where he abandons billions of dollars of American military equipment to our enemies, Trump's foreign policy makes America not just stronger geopolitically and strategically, but financially. Trump does all this and he makes us money at the same time. It's amazing. And of course, strategically, it secures for the U.S. a robust ally in South America for a generation. For sure. The Argentine Electoral Directorate has confirmed that Javier Milei's party has absolutely crushed the socialist parties in Argentina. Look at these percentages. With over 90% of the vote counted, the Javier Milei party, the LLA, 41% of the vote. The closest competitor is under 25%, then 5%, then under 4%. Crushing victory. The radical transformation of Argentina is about to reach a new level. Milei failed to push most of his major reforms through Congress because his party had very few seats. That hurdle will no longer exist. So Javier Milei has been operating almost purely on executive authority without legislative backing. But now he's picked up, I believe, a majority of legislative seats. He is in the catbird seat for sure. So he will accelerate what he's been doing. Javier Milei stormed to a landslide victory in Argentina, defying the polls and media that claimed he would lose or struggle. Argentina has decisively rejected communism. It's like if Trump were 30 years younger, right? And I mean, the energy Trump brings to his office is unbelievable. But imagine if Trump were 30 years younger. It's amazing, the security I mean, that security can allow this. That's incredible. There's that. We have a statement here from Trump, President Trump on Air Force One. In Argentina, I want to congratulate the victor. He had a lot of help from us, Trump says. Congrats to Javier Milei. Bold admission of U.S. election meddling or just diplomacy. Who cares?
Because that was a big win in Argentina. I want to congratulate the victor, and he was a big victor, and he had a lot of help from us. He had a lot of help. I gave him an endorsement, a very strong endorsement, and it was really unexpected to have a victory of that. Some people thought it would be hard to win, and not only did he won by a lot. So Argentina, that was a great thing. And I give Scott and I give Jameson, everybody, Marco, a lot of credit for that because, we are sticking with a lot of the countries in South America. We're focused very much on South America, and we're getting a real strong handle on South America in a lot of ways, including the fact that we don't want their drugs. We don't want drugs coming into our country.
Trump says, I'm with this man, and he said this in endorsing him. I'm with this man because Javier Milei, because his philosophy is correct. It is. I have to agree. Scott Bessent, congratulations to President Milei on La Libertad Avanza's very successful midterm election. President Milei has a renewed mandate for change, an empowered mandate, not just renewed, stronger than ever. Scott continues, Argentina is a vital ally in Latin America. The results are a clear example that the Trump administration policy of peace through economic strength is working. You see what Trump does that the liberal presidents don't do? They go and they get us involved and entrenched in wars in places in the world that can never benefit America. There is nothing that Afghanistan can ever do for America. Ever. If we need to attack them because they attacked us, we should just glass the place. There's no point trying to fix it. It's unfixable. You can't fix a nation where the average IQ is 80. There's a reason they are the way they are. There's a reason. They're not a first world nation. But what does Trump do that's different? Trump empowers, doesn't go to war in Argentina, empowers our allies, our partners, in countries that matter to us, countries in our hemisphere, which I would suggest 50 years from now that the nations in our hemisphere will be partners with America like the European nations were over the last 100 years. Now, of course, the European nations are devolving from first world status to third world status as they import tens of millions of third world migrants to replace their indigenous populations. But I think we can see a real resurgence, maybe even first world status in the South American nations in our hemisphere. Scott Bessent continues, we look forward to continued steps towards economic freedom that will attract private sector investment and job creators, bringing prosperity to the Argentine people. Because you can do that when it's not a communist government. When it's a communist government, they just steal all the money. No one invests in communism. That would be insane. You're not entitled to own property. Why would you invest in a nation where you're not entitled to own property? But in a capitalist society, you can get rich doing that. Bessent continues, under President Trump's leadership, the relationship between the United States and Argentina has never been stronger. Latin America is on its way to a bright economic future. I think that's definitely possible under this kind of leadership. And Javier Milei responds to Treasury Secretary Bessent. Thank you, Secretary Bessent, for your kind words and unwavering support. The resounding victory for LLA, his political party, is a triumph of the Argentine people's unyielding spirit for freedom, prosperity, and the defeat of the socialist scourge. What New York is about to adopt, what New York City is about to adopt wholesale. We'll see how that works out. The defeat of the socialist scourge that has plagued our nation for far too long. Your administration's bold vision of peace through economic strength resonates deeply with our own crusade in Argentina for liberty. Under President Trump's leadership, the unbreakable bond between the United States and Argentina will pave the way for unprecedented investment, innovation, and growth, unleashing the full potential of Latin America as a beacon of free enterprise. Together, we will build a future where chainsaws cut through bureaucracy, not dreams. MAGA, make America great again. And of course, make Argentina great again. I tell you, man, I'm looking into motorcycle tours through South America now. There's a big swath of South America that's all connected, contiguous nations that are all politically conservative. Makes it extremely attractive. And the nations that are not politically conservative tend to be nations like Venezuela and Colombia that are already in the crosshairs of United States foreign policy for drug and other reasons. Argentina, with Javier Milei's landslide victory, Trump's currency swap is set to make the U.S. taxpayers a lot of money. The program shows how the U.S. can do well by doing good. Great work, Secretary Bessent. My buddy, John Lott Jr., the author of More Guns, Less Crime, he writes, Argentina dollar bonds rally after election victory for Milei's party. Remember how many claim Trump just gave Argentina $20 billion? It was actually a swap where the U.S. got $20 billion worth of Argentina pesos, but now the value of the peso soared and we made money. So Argentina dollar bonds rally after election victory for Milei's party. When you look at this graph in your mind, this graph, you should invert it. So this is the risk. It's the bond market for Argentina pesos. You have to pay more interest when the peso looks dangerous, looks like a bad investment. And this is a measure of bond interest rates that have to be paid. So when this chart is high, the peso is in trouble. And when this chart is low, the peso is strong. And remember, Trump invested in pesos. So when they're in danger, they're cheap. And when they're strong, they're expensive. So in your mind, invert this chart. This is what happened. Those global investors were threatening the peso. It was becoming cheap. It was becoming risky. The amount of interest that Argentina had to pay for people who bought pesos got very, very high, over 10%. And then Trump made his investment in Argentina and Malay won. And look what's happened. The risk of the peso has collapsed, meaning the value of the peso has exploded. That's the return on investment America is making on this investment into Argentina. Elon Musk himself showed up to meet with Javier Milei, and they brought a chainsaw. Video of Elon in one of his peak nerd moments as Doge, celebrating with a chainsaw on stage with the Argentinian president Malay. The firing, cutting of U.S. federal employees for government efficiency and cost savings. Of course, the left hates that Trump invested in Argentina. They call it aid.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
Who doesn't want to be on this team? Who doesn't want to be on this team?